So if you're not living under a rock and you're into gaming, you probably have been hearing stuff about, or seeing stuff on Twitter for that matter, this Stop Killing Games movement initiative, to the point where I just became aware of it because I'm seeing some of the bigger people like Moist Critical and Asmongold and everything talk about it, and it's just interesting. I just made my own video on comparing video games to other forms of media and art, and how I worry for video game preservation. So it's really cool to see this. So right here is we're on the page. The consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. Increasing number of video games are sold effectively as goods with no stated expiration date, but designed to be completely unplayable as soon as support from the publisher ends. It's exactly the stuff I was talking about with being nostalgic for something that is no longer there and all that stuff. So I really just wanted to cover this topic because, obviously big people are talking about it, but the more people talk about it, the more it will get pushed. I mean, obviously, if you watch the channel, you know my opinion on it. I don't like that games can just disappear or content can be sunsetted, so pretty neat to see this. And it says here, it has, over 500,000 signatures to get for what's called the European Citizens Initiative. It says it's the most powerful option at our disposal, requires a massive number of signatures from citizens of EU countries in order to pass. If we can pass the signature threshold, there's a very strong chance that the European Commission will pass new law that will both protect consumer rights to retain video games that they have purchased and advance preservation efforts massively. So if you are a gamer in general, I don't really see any reason to be opposed to this. I know there's a lot of drama around the pirate software stream. I don't know who they are, and I don't like getting into drama, especially people who I have no idea who they are, but apparently he's kind of standing up to this in a way, to my understanding. But I hear he's a developer, which kind of is, he's kind of playing from both ends of the spectrum there. But if you buy a product, I do think this should, even if this doesn't get the amount of signatures it needs to be law, just blowing this up to people in general, just by a lot of people on YouTube talking about it and people on X and everything. Most people, most gamers, most consumers, they aren't watching videos made by like me or anyone who's big. So if the idea can get out there to the less informed consumer, let's say, that these games are being taken away from them, and because where a lot of people get hung up, or why a lot of people kind of don't understand why some people don't really push back on this, is because people just don't think about it. Like, you can't expect someone to have a position or a stance or an argument on something kind of until they need to. You know what I mean? So that's just how it works for most people. And if they see the idea, most people can understand that if I buy a book and then in 2 years I lose access to that book, they'll be like, well, that's kind of effed up. Like, I don't like that. And that's where a lot of people are standing up to this, where like, oh, you don't actually own the game. Like, you don't own these physical games that you buy. It's just a license to play the game, all that stuff, and that can be revoked and whatever. Like, I know all that stuff, but if you can get just the idea of it into people's head, they'll start pushing back and saying, well, that's not right. And at the very least, I hope what I'm seeing, the Stop Killing Games movement, can get that kind of ball rolling in a large number of people who play games' minds. Because regardless of whether or not, the license thing and all that stuff is the way it is, it is, but there's to me, there's some morality that comes into this. Like, if I purchase something from someone selling me something, I should actually receive something that, is mine to hold and experience when I want. And I think when we come through it, kind of looking at it through that lens rather than just like, oh, this is just the way it is, um, we can get some change to be made, you know? And there's also a fact the website has here, you know, how are publishers destroying video games. So let's, you know, basically what we said, rely on the server of the publisher, controls in order for the game to function, acting as a lifeline to the game. Why should they care? Ooh, like right here, I see concept of destroying every existing copy of a book, song, film, etc. Yeah, they're, like I said, creative works, art, all that stuff. We should preserve it just like the rest. And like everyone should be interested. Like I don't even understand why. To me, even the people making the thing, the publishers, the developers, they should be, you know, in my opinion, they should want their art to be preserved as well. So I agree, a cultural loss for society. I want people, when I'm dead and gone, to be able to experience games from now if they want to. Like, I'm not, like, a lot of people are kind of like in this mindset that gaming just constantly gets better, which certain benchmark things do, obviously, but I can still go back and really enjoy a game from the 90s or 80s, and yeah, it's different. It doesn't have the graphics. It doesn't have, you know, all the bells and whistles, but there's something still there. That's why I do think it is cultural. It is culturally significant as much as movies or books to me at this point. You know, video games is a huge industry, and I think we should keep it going. Actually, there's a question here, like with the licenses, aren't games licensed, not sold to customers? Short answer, this is a legal gray area depending on the country. United States, which is where I live, this is generally the case. Other countries, the law is not clear at all since license agreements cannot override national laws. Those laws often consider video games as goods, which have many consumer protections that apply to them. So despite what the license agreement may say, in some countries you are indeed sold your copy of the game license. Some terms still apply, however. For example, you are typically only sold your individual copy of the game license for personal use, not the intellectual property rights to the video game itself. And I've even heard of, I'm pretty sure it was in Moist Critical's video too, where I saw him talking about the pirate software guy, and he made the point this isn't just for single player games either. It can be for multiplayer, you know, things that you need servers for, where if the publisher is done, the company's done, you know, supporting the game, they don't want to have their hands on it anymore. At that point, you know, could they give it over to be fan run and handled? Or I just think there's a lot of options that we can start talking about. To me, it's like if the company doesn't want to do it themselves, like what's the harm in just handing it over to the people who love what they made and gave them money? To me, it's a moral no-brainer. If I made something, people are buying it off of me, and it requires my hard work to keep it going, and all these people are loving it, and then I'm like, I don't want to do the work anymore. I'm not going to cut off everyone's enjoyment. If someone wants to step up, or the community wants to step up and kind of take it over, and I can like detach my name from it at that point, so my hands are off of it. My hands were going to be off of it anyway. I just don't understand how anyone could be against this. If we're missing something, you know, let me know in the comments. But I just wanted to cover this since I think everyone who wants games to be around for as long as possible should. I think there's something to be talked about. This seems like a pretty important gaming movement. So just wanted to give my 2 cents. I hope you have a good day. I hope you're having a good week. I'll see you in the stream. Peace.